Hello everyone, I'm Tianshu. From a young age, I found my interest in math. I have done some Olympic competitions in China and a lot more competitions locally in Beijing. However, when I came to the US 4 years ago, I found that many students think math classes are boring. Like, many of them hate math. And why? Like, I asked them why. I asked my roommate, I asked lots of students from my school, and the conclusion I got is that the way the teachers teaches it is not that efficient, not that effective. It's not, in my mind, not the best way to memorize formulas or to utilize those formulas in real life, in real problems. So right now, I want to do a series of educational videos of my way to remember those formulas and how to use them wisely to tackle problems. So, and the first one is how you remember all those special angles in trigonometry, which is very useful, trust me. So let's get started. Oh, hold on. Before we go, I need to make one thing clear. That all these videos are free to watch. Just like Khan Academy, like I love Khan Academy because it helped me tremendously over the years. And I want to make these, the series of educational videos I'll make free as well. So people around the world can learn the best method, well, in my mind, the best method to remember formulas and learn how to use them wisely in problems. All right, special angles, trigonometry. So first of all, I need to draw a unit circle right here. This is a x-axis and a y-axis right here. So the unit circle will go from +1, -1 on the y, both x and y axes, -1 right here. So here's the unit circle. Doesn't look like a circle to me. So all the special angles like sine, cosine, and tangent, right? X. So the special angles are 30 degrees, well, 0 degrees, 30, 60, 45, sorry, I forgot, 60 and 90. These are the special angles. And, well, you can say, like, after that, you can add, like, 90 and 30, which will give you, like, 120 degrees. But right now, for now, we just need to focus on the first quadrant, which is from 0 to 90 degrees. And by degrees, I mean, like, if you draw a line from the origin to a point on a circle, the angle it makes with the x-axis will be theta, which will be, well, x right here. Let's call it theta. Okay? So let's tackle the easiest, which is 0 and 90 degrees. So the right angle or the 0 angle. On a unit circle, well, we can here's the circle. It looks more circular. So any point on the unit circle, the x coordinate is your cosine value. So cosine theta right here. And your sine value is your y coordinate. So see, right here you will get say this point is root 2. Then root 2 is your right. Well, I'm not sure if that's on the unit circle, but is on the unit circle. Root 2 over 2. Right. So the first value you will get is your cosine theta, and the sine value you get is your the second value you get is your sine theta, and the theta is the angle it makes from that point to the x-axis. So 0 degrees, which means your theta is 0. When it's 0, the point is right here, right? So what is the point? What's the coordinate of this point? Obviously, it's 1, 0, right? Here's the y-axis. It's 1, 0. So we can conclude that cosine 0 degrees is 1 right here. And then sine 0 degrees is 0. Similarly, you can do it for 90 degrees. So when theta equals to x, when theta equals to 90 degrees, this point is over here. It's on the y-axis. So right here. And what is the coordinate for this point? You can say it's 0, 1. because you move 0 unit from the origin along the x-axis, but you move up 1 from the origin. So what can you say? You can say, well, the first number is always your cosine value, and the second number is always your sine value, which means cosine, what degrees? 90 degrees, right? Because this is a right angle. 90 degrees is 0, and sine 90 is 1. And then similarly, we can do it for 180 and 270. So cosine 180 is the x coordinate for this point, right? Because this angle is 180. So this point cosine 180 will be -1. And sine 180, as you can see, is 0. Why? Because along the vertical line, it moves 0 degree upward or downwards. All right, so we accomplished 0 and 90 degrees. And the easiest, well, the second easiest is 45 degrees. So for 45 degrees, you can always remember the coordinates is √2/2 and √2/2. Same, both for x and y. Which means you just need to add like plus and minus sign in front of it. So say theta equals to 45 degrees, which means your point is right here, right, along the unit circle. So this point is always on the unit circle when you find the special angles. So sine 45 will be what? √2/2, right? Because it's always √2/2. And cosine 45 is your horizontal, or it's your vertical distance right here, which is your second value, √2/2. How about, well, 45 plus 90, what you get 135 degrees. How about cosine 135? Well, cosine 135 is 45 degrees plus 90, which means it's right here, right? Here's the right triangle. And what is this? This is halfway between 90 degrees and 180 degrees, right? Which means the value is still the same. I mean, the absolute value is still the same. √2/2 and √2/2. However, the sign is changed because right here is left side. It's on the left side of your y-axis. So the first value should be negative. So, which means your cosine 135 is -√2/2. The absolute value doesn't change. Like √2/2 is still √2/2 absolute value, right? But the sign changes. So cosine 135 is -√2/2, and sine 135 is √2/2. So always remember when your degrees, when the special angle you want to find is something 5, say like 135 or 45, then, well, when it's divisible by 45, then you should always remember the value, either cosine or sine, takes on the absolute value of √2/2. And then you just need to find like which quadrant it lays. In the first quadrant, both positive. Third quadrant, both negative. So let's say 135 plus 90 is 225. Cosine 225 is -√2/2, same as sine 225, -√2/2, because it's a 45 degree angle-ish, right? Derived angle, and it's on the third quadrant, so it's both negative, neg. And then when you're in the fourth quadrant, then it's positive and negative. So it's cosine will be positive, sine will be negative. And this is true for all of these angles. Lastly, we need to focus on 30 and 60. Well, that's a little bit confusing, but not quite. So right here, here's our unit circle again. 30 degrees and 60 degrees. Here's our theta. So when theta equals to 30, which is right here, and when theta equals to 60, your point will be right there. So for 30 and 60s, or its derivatives, like 30 plus 90, which is 120, or 60 plus 90, which is 150. Right? Yeah. For all these, the absolute value, well, regardless of this, the sign, the absolute value is either 1/2 or root 3 over 2. So how do you, well, or you can switch the order, root 3 over 2 or 1/2, the coordinates. But how do you determine which one is 1/2, which one is root 3 over 2? You can use this method, like the shortest length. The shortest length is always 1/2 because 1/2 is smaller than root 3 over 2. The shortest length is always 1/2, and the longer one is root 3 over 2. So say for this is 30 degrees, right? 30 degrees, you have a triangle here. You have a right triangle. And which one is shorter? This one, this length, or this length? This side is your sine, right? Your sine theta, which in this case is a sine 30. And this length, this side is your cosine. It's your cosine right here. Yep, cosine 30. So clearly this side is longer than that side. So your value, your coordinate right here will be root 3 over 2, which is your cosine value, which is your horizontal distance, comma, 1/2, 1 over 2, which is your vertical distance, right? So we can say cosine 30 is root 3 over 2, and sine 30 is 1/2. Similarly for this one, the 60 degrees angle, right? We have triangle again, but in this case, it's 60 degrees, right? So these two sides, well, let me remind you, this side is cosine 60. The length of this side is cosine 60, and the length of this side is sine 60. And these values can only take the value of either 1/2 or root 3 over 2, either of those. So the shorter one takes 1/2, the longer one takes root 3 over 2. In this case, this one is shorter than that one. So the length, the value of this line is 1/2, and sine 60 is root 3 over 2. Therefore, yeah, that's what we got. Sine 60, root 3 over 2, cosine 60, 1/2. And similarly, you can draw like 120 degrees or 150 degrees. In this case, it will just add like negative. In this case, let's see, negative 1/2 and positive 3 over 2, root 3 over 2. Got it? By now, this is the best way, I think, the fastest way to memorize all these special angles. All right, well, let's recap. So 0, 90, well, and 180, blah, 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 120, 270. These angles can only be either 1 or 0. And then you can just like draw on the unit circle. This case is 1, 0, 0, 1, plus or minus, my bad. Or 0 plus or minus 1. Right? 4 values, 4, and you have like 270s and 360, which is 0 degrees, right? So over here, the coordinate is 1, 0, right? Right there, 0, 1. Neg 1, 0, 0, neg 1. So these 4 values. And then once you get the coordinates, then you can simply say that cosine, the angle, is your first number. Sine, angle, is your sine, that angle is your second number. Got it? And 45 degrees, 45, 135, blah, blah, blah. Root 2 over 2 and root 2 over 2. Plus or minus. 4 values, 4 angles. So this is halfway between 0 and 90, right? 45. So first quadrant, root 2 over 2, root 2 over 2. Second quadrant, neg root 2 over 2, root 2 over 2. Third quadrant, both values are negative. Neg root 2 over 2, neg root 2 over 2. Fourth quadrant, positive root 2 over 2 and negative root 2 over 2. Got it? Last one, 30, 60, 120, 150, blah, blah, blah. It can either be 1/2 or root 3 over 2. And remember, always remember, the shorter length takes the value of 1/2, and the longer side takes the value of root 3 over 2. So in this case, well, the 30 degrees angle, short length is this one, so which is your y value, and then the longer side is this one, which is your x value. So the coordinate will be 1/2 and root 3 over 2. So cosine 30, which is your first value, well, let's write it down. So there are two numbers, A and B. A, well, when this is on the unit circle, A is always cosine theta. B is always sine theta. Theta is the angle your point make with the x-axis, this angle. All right, got it? So, and A and B can only be either 1/2 or root 3 over 2 when the angle equals to these ones. So, yeah. Sine 30 is right here. Sine 30. What's sine? Second number, right? 30 degrees right here. The shorter length is your y value, which is your sine. Here's x, here's y, right? Which is your second number, which is 1/2. Cosine 30 is your longer side, which is your x value, root 3 over 2. 60 degrees, vice versa. 120, well, you just need to add a negative sign on, let's see, 120 here, on the first value, because it's on the left side of your origin. All right, got it? Let's do some quizzes. Sine 30. Cosine 45. Tangent 0. Well, I don't know whether that has a value or not. Cosine 150 and sine 330. All right. So you can pause the video and try to figure it out on your own with this awesome way to memorize those special values, special angles. All right, I hope you give it a try. Sine 30, as we say, you draw a unit circle here, right? Sine 30 is here, and 30 angle, we know one of them is 1/2, the other one is root 3 over 2. In this case, the y distance is, the vertical distance is shorter than the horizontal distance, so it would be root 3 over 2 and 1/2. Well, my bad, that's a point. So sine is your second, remember, sine is your second value, second number. So you take this one, sine 30 is 1/2. Quick, very quick. Cosine 45. Well, 45, you know, is either, well, it's both root 2 over 2 and root 2 over 2. Cosine 45 degrees is in your first quadrant, right here. So root 2 over 2. Cosine is your first value, first number, so root 2 over 2. Tangent 0. Tangent, for this one, tangent, like tangent x, let's write it here. Tan x equals to, almost made a mistake there. Sine x over cosine x. Which means, so tangent would be simply sine 0 and cosine 0 over cosine 0. What's sine 0? Sine 0, sine 0, your point will be right here, right? So it's 1, 0. Sine 0 is 0. Second value. Cosine 0 is 1. 0 over 1 is 0. So, yeah. So, actually, tan 0 has a value. It's 0. Cosine 150. So, 150, what's 150? 150 is, isn't it like, doesn't it belong to the 30 degrees angle family? This is like 60 plus 90, right? 150. So, we know that is somewhere over here, right? 150. And you have a, well, let's make it bigger. So that's 150. And what do you have left? Well, this angle is 180, so this is 30 degrees. So the coordinate would be, well, one is 1/2 and one is root 3 over 2. This one, the vertical distance is it's shorter, so it's 1/2, which is your y value, and the horizontal distance longer is root 3 over 2. But you have to be careful because this is in your second quadrant, which would be neg root 3 over 2 and 1/2, because it's on the left hand side of the y axis. So your x must take a negative value. So yeah, in this case, cosine is your first value, first number, root 3 over 2. Sine 30, let's make it quick. Sine 30, fourth quadrant, right here. 330 degrees. And you have a 30 degrees left, right? 30 degrees left. And so this point, what's the coordinate of this point? Horizontal distance longer than the vertical distance. So the horizontal distance should be √3/2. The y value should be 1/2. In this case, -1/2 because in the fourth quadrant. So sine is your second number, -1/2. This is the fastest way to memorize these special angles. Promise. Yeah, in my mind. Hope you found this video helpful. This is my first video of the series. Leave it in the comment what you want to hear about next. Well, I'm currently in multivariable calculus. I'm studying linear algebra and differential equation at the same time right now. So anything before that, you can ask. All right. Thank you. Have a good day.